Hey guys, I'm Rick, and that is One Big Pile of Bricks with our amazing guest, Master Magician Apollo.
Hey!
Woo!
Thank you guys so much for having me on the show.
Thank you so much for coming down.
It's good to finally be down. We've been talking about this for ages, haven't we?
We have
been. It was a bit of a journey for you today too, wasn't it?
I was a little off. Well, not really. It sort of went for like 2 seconds, it felt like, because as soon as I hopped on the plane, I passed out and then woke up and the stewardess was like, hey, we've landed. oh, okay.
You gotta get off. What are you doing here? You gotta not, because if you stayed, you would have just went back home, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah. Once I'm asleep, I'm asleep. I'm out.
I'm the same. I can
like
sleep in
you.
anywhere. And it's like when I'm in the airplane, I'm just like,
You fell asleep when I can't remember if we were going from the States or back here or the other way around. You fell asleep and other people were like looking at you like jealous.
yeah, we flew back from the States and I slept the whole trip. Like, as soon as I lay down, I didn't wake up. And they were like, the stewardess was like, are you alive? Like, because I just slept the whole way. I'm like, yeah, I'm just tired. Like, it was a big trip. But, it's America. Everything's, like, exciting and amazing. So, let's talk about the first time we actually met. Do you remember?
I do. Well, I actually, before we actually met, I remember you guys put up a meme, and it was.
Oh, I remember that.
And I remember it because it absolutely made my month. And it was just after, I think, Bachelor in Paradise. And there was you made a little Lego meme, and it was me, and there was like a 6-brick pack.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Because for those watching and listening at home, Apollo was on The Bachelorettes, and who were you trying to swoon?
Just everyone, really. But Sophie Monk mainly. Yeah, she was the Bachelorette.
And what was the run on Bachelorette?
It was great. It was a lot of fun. I've done a lot of random things in my life, and I have to say that was like the most random thing ever. And for someone that, has just performed on stage and in front of people my whole life as well, I've never felt so out of my comfort zone, and just I had no idea what I was doing. I was so nervous.
Were you more nervous because you weren't? Sorry, Caroline, because you weren't in control of the environment.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of things. I think one, it was just strange being on there. I was the youngest guy by like a lot, and I think it was the first time that I ever sort of questioned, I guess, my identity as well, because I was surrounded by a lot of older guys that had these, like I guess super like professional jobs. There was bankers, there was all the and then there was like the 24-year-old magician.
But it didn't come across that way at all, though.
Yeah, I was
like, came across very in control of the situation. That's how it looked like to a viewer.
Caroline's a big fan, if you couldn't tell, Apollo.
Yes. There is a whole story about how I started watching The Bachelorette, and it links in with the Apollo rocket.
Yeah, because I was building the Apollo rocket at our old address.
Yes.
And our neighbour's wife was watching.
What happened was Rick said, I've got to go and show the next door neighbour this amazing Lego set.
Yeah.
Oh, and I said, well, Rick's probably going to talk for ages. He's going to be gone for a good hour or so. I'll come with you. So middle of winter, I went over there with him, and Rick's like, oh, look at this big rocket. This is the whole Apollo rocket. Anyway, like, I said to his wife, what are you watching? And of course she was watching The Bachelorette. Yeah. And then that was the beginning of just about every night when it was on.
We were over there.
I'd shuffle over there in my dressing gown and my slippers, middle of, a Melbourne winter, go over there, and the pair of us would be like watching it. And I'm like, oh, who's your favourite? And she's like, oh, I like Jimmy. He's my favourite.
Jimmy was my favourite.
I'm like...
He seemed like a nice dude.
He seemed like a really nice dude as well, I think. And I'm like, oh, no, it's Apollo. And, so we just kept watching it every episode.
Caroline's a massive fan. We've been stirring her all week. Apollo's coming on the podcast.
And I don't mind that at all.
Because you remember I asked you to do a birthday video for Caroline. Do you remember?
Yeah.
I did, and it was very awesome. I've still got that.
Because we were at Toy Fair,
2019.
Pre-pandemic.
I'm sorry. It was 2020.
No,
wasn't it? Yeah, it was just before kind of lockdowns happened.
Apollo released a magician's pack.
And our pussycat died that day, so I was not feeling the best. We were having a bit of a down day. We had to take our cat to the vet, and then we were just walking past. We were on the way to our annual Lego meeting, and then Rick saw like a magician's stand.
Yeah, you had this big magician's stand with your head, your whole like... And I was like...
It's a big head.
That's Apollo.
I was like, I'm pretty sure that's Apollo. And Caroline's like,
No.
And then when we came up, and obviously, it was, and we were chatting, And I never forget. You're like, oh yeah, I follow you on Instagram, and I was like, oh, I
I'm
wonder
a
if he
big
does.
fan.
And you're like, and you go, I'm a big fan. I'm like, oh, cool, this is awesome. You know, you meet someone on TV, and I walk away, and I'm like, he didn't follow me on Instagram. What a jerk. And, then I'm like walking back to see you, and you go, I know, because I just see you just like notification, like bing, and I was like,
I was like, oh god, because after you guys tagged me that thing, I was like, oh, that's cool, but I didn't realize that I hadn't actually pressed the follow
You
button.
got a lot going on. It's fine.
No. I felt terrible.
it was so funny.
You know when you get called out like that as well?
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, I know. and then when I checked, I was like, oh god, I don't. But if I follow now, if I don't follow, then maybe they won't know.
Then it's super weird, right? Like that is like.
But maybe they won't know that I haven't already followed unless they go through all the followers. And you guys have a lot of followers because everyone loves you guys. Icons. And then I was like, but if I do follow, they're gonna know. And I was like, oh, I feel like this is gonna be a long-term relationship. I'm gonna just hit that follow and just.
It was so funny because I remember coming over and you're like, I was like, dude, and you're like, I know.
And then Rick said to me later, he goes, just remember, Caroline, he fanboyed over me.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I was like,
The whole day it was like that.
And like, you were obviously there promoting your magician pack, which is still selling in stores, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's still going around. That was it's such a long process of I've done other products as far as going to retail with them. I had a sports nutrition company for a while. I've had, other little businesses, but it was the first time, going through the process of, I guess, releasing a toy, in that sort of realm. And the process is
just to confirm, a kid's toy.
A kid's toy. A kid's toy.
Just to confirm, I was like,
Of course.
magician's kit. A magician's kit for kids.
Yep. Yes. Kids magic kit. Yes. No, not releasing the other one yet. No.
Promo. This is gold, isn't it?
And it was great. I'd actually over just right before COVID actually hit. It was always a dream of mine because I started magic with a magic kit. So I was like, it'd just be amazing to be able to kind of give back to the magic community and the young up and coming magicians with my magic kit. And hopefully one day a kid on TV doing cool magic, and I'm this old geezer and he's like, oh, I started with your magic kit. I was like, that would be
but you're
amazing.
pretty big in the magic circuit, right?
There's a lot of really
like
big
in Australia,
magicians.
like you would be one of the like top ones, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's just a lot of amazing magicians. But I guess as far as notoriety, just from different sorts of things and TV and stuff, maybe. But there is like some phenomenal magicians and young up and comers in the scene that are just next level. And it's so good to see.
I'm surprised you haven't applied for the Penn and Teller show and gone over.
I was actually thinking about doing that.
Oh,
Yeah,
You should.
they are just amazing, aren't they?
yeah.
We saw them live in Vegas with a couple of other friends, and he loves them, right? And he's like, I don't know, it was like 48 or something, and we were over there, and I was like, he's like, oh, it's a bit awkward because you're an adult man. You're like, I don't want to wait, and I was like, dude, it's fine. Like, we've got time.
He didn't want to. At the end of the show, you can meet them if you want to, and he's like, no, it's fine. We said, no, it's fine. You're here.
When are you going to do it?
When are you going to come to Vegas again? Like, you haven't been here in 20 years. Let's stay. He's like, oh, I don't know. Anyway, he met both Penn and Teller, and he was just like wrapped. He was like so happy, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was really good. And it wasn't what I was expecting. So me and Will, who owns like the miniature gun Lego company, we were like, I was like, we'll just wait because Aussies don't really push in. When you're overseas, you're sort of just standing and waiting.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like everyone's like pushing, And I said to him, we'll just wait. And he waited, and I think it was Penn saw and was like, oh no, you guys can be next.
Yes.
Because you were letting everyone go ahead. I was like, yeah, that's fine. And we got a photo, and he was like, I got on stage with them, and it was like the most amazing thing ever.
You did, yes. And we were asking you later how they did the trick, and he goes, I don't know. I just didn't realise.
It's crazy. Well,
It was so good.
Without giving it away for anyone who's going to see the show, was it the finale with the farm animal?
Yeah, that's how good is that?
Yes.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, how good is it, right? I was like, because they've got like they've got the thing and they're in your face, and you're distracted because he's like,
Yes.
and then it collapses, and you're like,
How did that happen? What just happened?
and they're really good. So they have this one
So
trick which
clever.
everyone's seen where they have like the goldfish bowl, and they pull out the goldfish and it's coins. Have you seen that? He chucks the coins in and it's goldfish, and my brain's like,
Yeah, and you're like, wait, what?
and you don't want to watch any videos that ruin it, right? Because I
Yes.
hate that sort of videos, like ruining magic, because the whole part of it is like since like
The mystery.
1800s. It's like mystery, right? You don't want to know the tricks, like.
No.
And then when I saw it later, I've been thinking about it like non-stop because you're like, and every time it comes on TV, I was like, I was there for that. Like,
Yeah.
it was really, really good.
And it was something that we would never have thought of to go and see, but our friend was so intent on seeing them. We said, yeah, sure. I mean, we'll come along. If they're good, you love them so much, we'll come.
I meant to see
would.
David Copperfield that weekend, and we didn't because he like bailed.
He bailed.
Oh,
Everyone
really?
was...
Yeah, but he's notoriously known for bailing last minute. Like, and his tickets are like...
It was a lot.
I know. I paid for them when I went.
Did you?
Yeah.
I paid for the meet and greet. I was like,
did you?
oh yeah. That's
Was it good?
probably where all my money. He's amazing. He's phenomenal. He's literally one of the goats. But yeah, I can't remember how many shows he does a week, but it's something like 12 or 15.
Yeah, it's heaps.
every week.
a
Like
lot.
he is a machine. But I think he's been running the show for a while, and when you run a show for so much, sometimes sometimes you probably do need a day
Yeah,
off.
he-
And that might be
I don't know
why
if he does the same show. It's the one that had the alien. He's got some alien. Or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah,
that was
so we were
cool.
meant to go see that, and we were like, oh yeah, but it got cancelled.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh well, but we saw like that and some other things, and it was pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
Because
It was. It was
awesome.
still an amazing experience just to see Penn and Teller. I'll never forget it. It was awesome.
Oh, it was amazing. I remember going to see that show, and I was over there for CES, I think, when I saw their show. Or it might have been the trip before. But we'd just gone to the Luxor beforehand. And if you get a drink over in Vegas, like, they have them.
Yeah, yeah.
America does nothing in
Oh.
smalls, dude. Like, that's
Yeah.
one thing you learn is that when you first go over, and the mistake you have,
Yeah.
like in Australia, our large is like what we consider large, which is,
Standard.
a lot. Like,
When you go to a restaurant, you're not going to order a meal each because it's
No.
going to be huge.
but large in America is like they're small,
Yeah.
yeah.
right? And it's crazy. And when you go over, you're like,
It's
This is a lot.
This is monolithical. So yeah, I just ordered, because tequila pineapple is like my go-to drink. So I ordered a tequila pineapple, and they're like, "Are you taking it to the theater?" I'm like, "Yeah." So they're like, "Okay, we'll put it in a cup, thing for you." And it was like a movie-sized, like extra
Yeah.
large. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like 3 spots into their show, and I am like yahooing. I'm like.
you wasted.
Fangirling. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I was excited too, but yeah, and that's just Vegas. I think.
Yeah. It's,
Vegas is another,
just-
like, we've been a few times. Like, I don't think I'll go anytime soon, but when
No.
we've been, it's been like, what you see on TV shows you the good side of Vegas. And when
Yeah.
you're there, you realize how
seedy it
seedy it can be. Like, you go there and you're like, oh, and you walk through the casino, and they smoke there inside.
Yeah.
Right? And because we're not, it's been banned here
No.
for years. So when you walk in, you're like,
Everything
Oh my
stinks. My
God.
hair's
Yeah, what is
smelly. My
this?
clothes. Yeah.
People try and sell you stuff.
especially on the
These
street, they're
little
trying to give you like
cards
those
that
They
they
slap
shady
the cards and
Yeah,
stuff.
those shady
Yeah.
cards. They're like, yeah. And you're like,
I can't.
So
No.
we ended up in there was a guy and so I went over with my best friend Chris and another friend of ours Pez, and Chris, he's a great dude. He wasn't very street smart with the hustles in America.
Yeah.
So he got like, they were targeting him. So like Rap CD, like Wonder Woman would be like, hey, do you want to get a photo? He's like, yeah. You get a photo, it's like
$10.
$20 tip or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, always.
We get to Vegas and this guy's like touted this like, oh, we're gonna pick you up in a limousine and we'll take you around to like these nice venues and whatever. And Chris is like, yeah, man, let's do it. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, we'll give it a go. This white van rocks up, like this rusted out white van, picks us up. We get in there and
Are you going to the desert to be kidnapped?
I know that the luxury drinks that were in there were like, it was like a case of like home brand Canadian Club and like a bottle of some random spirits. And we get taken to the venue, and the venue was like down this alleyway, this back door, and then
Shady mix.
they tried to like charge us for entry and stuff as well. And it was like something off a movie. Like it was so
like my
funny.
sister and I have had that in New York. Like New York, I had a knife
Yeah.
pulled on me in New York.
Oh.
Yeah, because they would like. Have you ever been in New York? They're like trying to shove
No.
everything in your face, right? So you're like, first time going to America, everything's exciting, right?
Yeah.
You're in New York City with my sister, and he hands me a CD. And
Before you know it, you're
and
going
I
to
got it,
take
and he's like, I
something.
want $20, and I'm like, well, I have to give him $20 now.
Yeah.
So I give him $20, and then like 2 nights later, we're walking through Times Square, and he tried to do it again. I said, I fell for that for the first time. Go away. A few swear words later, you're like, mate, I said back off. And he pulls this knife on me, dude, and it's like a big knife.
Like
Am I-
Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, and my sister's
I don't know.
like, you're going to get stabbed. Stop. Because I'm arguing back. Because this is what, Aussies.
She
so
said
I'm
that
like,
to you or the other guy?
no, to me. And like, we're Aussies. So I'm like, let's go. Like, I'm ready. And then like the cop's in the background and you can hear him laughing. And the cop's like, you should just leave him alone because he's Australian and they don't play. And I was just, and my friend started laughing and he goes, oh, sorry, man. And then it was like this really weird experience of New York City. And I haven't been back since because I'm like, do I want to go back like and have that kind of really tourist feel?
You know the craziest thing about that situation is the cop that's like, he's Australian. I've seen Crocodile Dundee, and he's gonna pull out a knife
And
that's
like,
bigger
it's
than
just
that.
like he doesn't play, and we were talking about it for ages. I was to my sister like, what the fuck? Like, yeah, it's like, what happened then? She's like, I don't know, man. Like, and it was just so funny. That's why when we went back to Vegas, I was like, don't touch anything, don't let them give you anything because it's the classic like street vendor, like, hey, look at my flowers here. Your wife needs a rose. $20 late, like, and
It's like no.
They give it to you, and then they ask for the money.
But we were wised up last time that we
Yeah.
went. Yeah.
So with your magician life, because you're a pretty big magician, in my eyes, you're like the biggest magician we know. So
You are the only
Yeah,
Maybe
magician we
height-wise.
know.
so have you been to the special magician thing in LA?
No. So when we went to LA the first time, we were only there for 2 days before going to Vegas.
Yeah.
We went to Universal Studios, which was like
Yeah.
That's what you do.
best time of my life. Like
You need to go to Orlando, man. It is the bomb.
all right.
Yeah.
Like they have Dan's been actually. They have like Harry Potter set up, but there's 2 lands and you get the Hogwarts Express. And it's a ride. Each way is different.
I haven't been
Mate,
yet. I haven't
like,
been either.
I want to go back, but at the moment America's like a little bit crazy. So I'm going to have a bit of a break from the States.
Yeah.
But like, and now Super Mario World's coming.
I know. I see. Right before COVID, Japan was like my go-to country.
Man.
Because I'm a massive nerd. Like, love video games, love anime as well, and I love Japanese culture. I've got a bit of Japanese heritage as well, so I've always felt a bit of
that's
tie
cool.
there.
Cool.
And I've just always wanted to go over, so I planned this trip, and then COVID hit, and then I'm like, okay, COVID's lifted now, and I think it's the only country that still hasn't opened up to Australia.
Yeah, from what
Some
because like
bad
Maddie and
issues
Jimmy,
now.
who were on season 1 of Lego Masters with our mutual friend Billsy, because you know
Yeah.
Billsy.
Yeah.
We were
Legend.
planning on going over for like a Super Mario thing, but COVID is still
of
everywhere,
course.
and we're one of the select few countries. I wouldn't say lucky, but are trying to live and deal with what's happening.
Yeah.
So everything kind of feels normal to us when it's not really normal. Well, they still haven't got past that, which I totally understand and I respect that because no one wants to deal with that sort of stuff, right? Like,
Yeah, 100%. And you look at the density of their population as well, especially in Tokyo. They
Oh,
kind of
dude,
like
it's
can't
packed.
afford to, But it's
Kind of-
annoying because I want to go there so bad.
dude, I want to go so badly.
Yeah.
There's so many, and apparently the best Disney park is there.
Yeah. I recently saw that they were advertising for is it Waterworld? I think the stunt show they have there.
Yeah.
But yeah, their Disneyland is expanding because obviously they've got heaps of other stuff going on. So they're planning for this big, I guess, reopening and bringing tourism back in.
Maybe you could get a job over there.
I would love to go and do like a Japan tour over there.
We want you to stay here.
You could do magician stuff
do
in
the
Japan.
magician stuff, yeah.
Yeah, well,
You never know, right?
right before COVID hit, I actually shot a pilot, and it was based around a travel and magic show.
Oh man, that's
and
awesome.
and then COVID hit, and sent it off to a few places, and they're like,
Uh-huh.
"I'm gonna have to revisit this." So
Wait, because we were talking about that at Toy Fair. I remember
yeah,
we were having a chat
This
about.
is
I
how
remember
long
now.
things take to kind of from development to fruition, right? It takes a long time.
yeah. I think especially with stuff like pilots and stuff. Like I actually shot my first pilot when I was 17.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and it's just been years and years and years and years, and you sort of get a bit of traction, and then you work with someone, they lose the footage or something doesn't happen. It's a long process, and the timing's got to be right. But I'd love to have a show where you could just like go to Japan and just explore the culture and
I feel like
magic stuff
their
over there.
reactions are a bit more genuine
yeah,
because they love that stuff, right? They love all that like magical stuff, right? So they're going to be like super surprised. You're not going to get the angry mum on the street here in Australia being like, "Get out of my face!
Don't film me.
Don't film me!" Like and get like in trouble. But yeah, with the magician stuff, you've been approached to be on a lot of shows, right?
Yeah. I can't think of when my first sort of TV thing was, but yeah, over COVID we had, I think it was 4 or 5 shows that had sort of come through lined up. So we had America's Got Talent. There was another show over in the States. There was a show in the UK. And then there was Czech's Got Talent as well.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
Wow.
And yeah, COVID was here, and we were under like the heaviest restrictions you could get.
Of course,
So,
of course.
you know, I sent all these emails out to the government, and then just couldn't leave the country. So missed out on those opportunities. But yeah, there's a few in the pipeline that over the next month or two.
Anything you can talk about?
Yeah,
Yes.
Francis.
Anything you can talk about? So like, you're not going to get into trouble. So like, that's the main thing.
Yeah. No. So yeah, Francis Got Talent is in a month's time. I head over. We shoot that, which should be pretty fun.
Dan doesn't like dates, but bad luck for Dan. We're currently filming in July.
And try not to. This time, don't get burnt.
All right.
Don't get burnt.
Oh
When
yeah, because you
you're
got burnt the last
upside
time,
down.
right?
Yeah.
What happened when you got burnt? Tell us.
It was just a little bit of a bit of fuel sort of leaked off my arm onto my hand. So
And you were upside down at the time, right?
yeah, and I kind of milked it as
Yeah.
well.
Move your arm,
So
make it-
I got the jacket off, and then my arm was still on fire because the fuel had leaked through, and I was like, oh, but it's, and I'm like, oh, hang on, and it actually started going out. So I went like this onto my leg, which was on fire,
Yeah.
and sort of like kept
remember watching
reigniting
that,
it, and
and
I was like,
really worried.
this is great, and then when the adrenaline wore off, I'm like, I shouldn't have done that because
Because now you're
my-
feeling it, right?
Yeah.
afterwards my hand was like all bubbled up and stuff, but that's what happens when you play with fire. You get burnt, as they say, and I play with fire a lot.
Yeah, because you've been like anyone in Australia. If you don't know who it is, Jackson. He's massive on social media in Australia. He's one of the biggest social media stars in this country. Him and Shami, they like the biggest, right?
Yeah.
And you did a fire breathing thing at Jackson's like special playground thing that he has here in Australia, right?
Yeah, so he had this New Year's party, and he's got a friend of his who's helping organise it with him, and he reached out and he wanted me to put in touch with some of my circus friends.
Yeah.
So he got the Ashtons and a few other people, and they put on like the most insane shows. They had aerialists, they had the Globe of Death. with the
Yeah,
motorcycle.
I
saw
saw that
that.
because I was showing Caroline. I'm like, oh my god, look at this.
Yeah, and
This is where Apollo is. I'm like, oh, that's a little crazy.
Wheel of Death was another thing, which is like these two kind of like hoops on either end of this axle that spins, and this dude runs in it and runs on the outside of it, and it's crazy. But yeah, so I was there as well doing some fire breathing with people coming in, a little bit of emceeing, a little bit of DJing, a bit of magic. But it was crazy. It was like
Did you have a good time?
His own little circus at this house of his. I had a great time, and he's actually like such a nice, genuine guy.
I've heard a lot because obviously Billsy is big on the radio in Queensland. So me and Billsy were talking about it. I'm like, is he a good dude? Like, because
Yeah.
You don't
and he's
know.
like, no, he's actually like a normal dude. Because you get that, like, he is famous in 8 million
And the
followers. He's
ego.
massive.
Oh,
like,
yeah, huge. Yeah, but yeah, just genuine dude. Really, really nice dude.
wow. And did you get too drunk at his party?
He was
I
there
didn't.
in a professional
Yeah, I was working.
sense.
Yeah. I don't drink when I work because obviously there's like fire and
Yeah.
stuff going on
Dude,
as
there's
well.
fire.
Yeah, and no one wants to see a drunk magician.
I don't think that's great because you'll be swallowing the fire, not breathing it out. And that's
yeah. No, it's better. It's better for the other people to be drinking. I always
Yeah.
say.
And we had a conversation later because you were like, oh, dude, I feel so sick because you swallowed some of the liquid.
Yeah. So that happened. That's happened to me twice now. When I've done like an extended sort of fire show, because it happens. You can have every precaution under the sun. You know, you rinse your mouth out afterwards. There's certain things you eat and put in your mouth beforehand to sort of coat it. And you know, you try and eat a lot of carby food and stuff like that, soak it up as well. But when you're fire breathing for extended amount of time, if you're going through 2 liters of fuel, by rule of thumb, you're probably ingesting, you know, almost 10% of that sometimes.
That's a lot.
You know, just through your glands.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's a lot.
what is it a special formula? Like what's the process? No one do it at home.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
don't try this at home.
And don't
Yes,
tell anybody
actually.
what the actual one. But is it a special formula that's better, that's okay for you to have?
The answer is no.
That's why I'm like, how do you stop being sick all the time? Like,
Yeah.
because it's chemicals.
Yeah, the idea is just to do it in small increments, and you generally don't see someone doing, you know, like fire breathing for, you know, an hour.
How long were you doing it for?
I was doing it for a long time. But,
You're like, oh, I've got a sore
He's
throat.
a professional, everyone.
yeah, you have those breaks. You take all the precautions, do everything you can right. And I've been doing sort of fire eating and fire performing since I was very young. So I have
No one tried at home.
learned my
Don't try
lessons.
Do
So
not try it at home.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that again. Do not try it at home.
But let's talk about when you were young. What did your mum say when you said, I'm going to go and breathe fire, Mum?
Yeah, it was funny because it's funny.
I didn't tell my mum.
Yeah, we talk about this a lot, Mum and I. And so I started as a dancer when I was 3, and I always wanted to be an entertainer. It was sort of like built into me. So I did tap, jazz, and ballet. And then I got bullied for doing that at school. And then the footy kids bullied me. So I was like, I'm going to play footy. So I had this like really, really great career in footy, really enjoyed it. And then discovered magic sort of just before that time. I was about 7 or 8 when I discovered magic. And it was kind of like a side thing. And then
You have a side thing when you're 7 or 8. That's incredible.
a side thing,
like,
yeah. I mean, it was
the side thing. He's got the footy, and by the time he's 7 or 8, he's got the
It's
footy.
like, hey, Mum, look where I can put this rabbit.
yeah, check this out. Boom. Yeah, so it was kind of, and then I kind of fell in love with it a little bit more, but it was always that thing on the side. And I was always enthralled with almost like I loved sideshow stunts and sort of like freak show, and loved circus as well. And that's how I sort of got into, all that other sort of stuff as well. So, fire eating, fire breathing, fire performing, got into a tiny bit of juggling. And it all started as a place called Burleigh, which is up on the Gold Coast. Yep. And they have like a drumming and fire spinning circle area.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay.
We went down one night and picked up a fire staff, loved it, and then bought all the toys sort of like the next weekend, and that was it.
Mum's like, don't burn down the house.
Don't burn down the house. That was it. And I think it was like a year later I was doing parties and stuff, like corporates.
That's amazing.
And stuff. Yeah, getting some money for it.
But your
It's amazing.
journey as a magician hasn't been easy because you had a heart attack when you were quite younger.
Yeah. Well, I think I was so sure of what I wanted to do when I left school. And, I think there was a few pivotal moments that sort of led me to doing magic full time. And the first was when I was 16 and I was playing football like a lot. I broke my leg, and I didn't break it playing football or doing powerlifting or any of this crazy stuff I was doing. I did it doing high jump dressed as a pink fairy at our school sports carnival. So
That would do it.
That's what you're telling people.
And you
anyway.
had to go to
that's what
hospital
I'm telling.
like that,
Yeah,
right?
I was doing high jump. So I had to go to hospital.
Doctors and nurses are like, what have you been up to?
Well, what do you do? Wheeled in. First time on the green whistles. I was
What's all this
super
glitter?
chatty.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. I probably was glittered up. I was always have been a little bit eccentric. So I've gone in there and I couldn't run around and do stuff. I had to sit there.
Yeah.
So it was just like magic. I was just smashing through,
that's why.
magic DVDs,
Okay.
magic books. Chris Angel was big at the time.
Yeah.
And I had the same hair, so I was like, oh yeah, we're alike.
But from what I've heard about him, you're a lot nicer.
Oh, that's good. And then so I went through and started doing small gigs and stuff, and from when I was quite young, I used to go to Broadbeach and I'd learn tricks, and I just like walk around the streets and just do tricks for people. As like an early teen, and I left school, and then it wasn't like something that I could just do full time. So I ended up having 1,000 different jobs, and magic was always that side thing, but it was always that love, that passion, the one thing that I'd do for work and then not have to stress about, or, it just sort of felt natural to be in front of people performing, doing that kind of stuff. I sort of, there was a time when I sort of put it to the side, and for about a year, 2 years, I was just doing other stuff, and sort of got a bit depressed. And
did you become a security guard for a while?
Yeah. I actually
Caroline's a
did security
stalker.
I got to research this.
I did security for a fair while, actually. Terrible security guard, way too nice. And I was always getting in trouble for it as well. Like, hey, can you not do that? Oh, okay. Well,
And you're a big dude as well. Like, you're tall. Like, you're...
You don't necessarily need to be, heavy-handed with them because, you're a big dude.
Yeah. I'd always play the friend card, you know what I mean? I'd be like, oh, come on,
But
man,
that's
don't do
easier,
that.
right? Than
Did it
being
work?
like...
Yeah, it does. It does until it doesn't, and that's a point I think that every security guard gets. You know, especially if you're the nicer security guard, you get to a point where you just are so nice, and then just people just don't take you seriously.
Yeah.
You know, or they kind of walk all over you, or you know, you're like, hey, just don't drink out of that jug in here. And they do it like another 5 times. And you're like, man, you're gonna have to go. And then you kick them out, and they yell at you or whatever. But I went through that period and put magic to the side, and then just had a heart attack out of nowhere.
Was it the job that was making you depressed?
I think it was just. I think with anyone, if you're just not doing what you want to do and what you really enjoy doing.
Were you a bigger unit?
Like, yeah. So I started working in the mines over that time. It's all you can eat. 24/7.
Sounds like my
all
kind
you
of
can eat
place.
doesn't mean all you can eat. It doesn't mean all you can eat.
When you're bored, you eat, right?
That's it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And I was doing night shift as well, so I would just load up. I would just pack a bunch of meals, and I'd just sit there in between patrols and stuff like that, and just smash food and study. But yeah, so I'd put on a fair bit of weight. And I got back, and I don't know, I just didn't know what I was doing with my life, and I had this heart attack.
And how old were you at the time?
I think it was like 22 or 23.
Yeah. Wow, it's a big shock, man. Like young dude. Like,
you just finished. You'd finished work, right? And you went to a friend's house.
Yeah, it was actually
Stalker.
It was Pirates
Caroline's
of the
there with the binoculars, like, oh, what's the follow up? Like,
it was Pirates of the Caribbean, and I was working as a security guard, and they needed an executioner, so they actually took my measurements for the fitting for the executioner.
so you were working on the show,
but as a security guard, yeah.
dude.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So the company that I worked for, Safe Night, amazing company by the way. They do all the film sets, so they're like,
oh man, that's awesome.
So that was a great experience. But yeah, so they'd done my measurements up to do that, and I remember being super excited. And then I went to a mate's place, and I just had this heart attack, and it was crazy because the doctors couldn't figure out, I guess, one, what really caused it, and two, the way my body was reacting. Like my heart rate was like 170 or something like that. They couldn't get it down.
Wow,
for like
man, that's
5 days.
crazy.
5 days.
Yeah, they pumped me full of like every drug under the sun. They had this one that kind of stops your heart, resets it. My kidneys shut down, so I didn't go to the bathroom they pumped me full of like 11 liters of fluid. Couldn't pee. So it was so funny. Actually, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna have to put a catheter in," and they walked out, and I was like, I looked at that thing that you've got a wee in, right? And I'm like, I need to get something that looks like wee inside this.
Yeah, because you don't want to, mate. Like
no. So they left the room, and I had there was a little bit of water in there, and then there was like a bit of orange juice, and I was just like looking for any liquids to put in there. The
true magician in you is coming out.
Come back, and the guy's like, oh, it's pretty good, but we're gonna need more than that. But in between that, all this other stuff was happening, and at one stage I got rushed into a room because they couldn't control my heart. Like I was still having heart attacks. My heart rate was crazy, and all these doctors were around, and they were about to put a tube down my throat and then give me a needle and do like the shock back to life thing.
Was that to slow your heart, like because it was just pumping too hard?
I think so. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I just remember it was just a big blur, and I got put in this room, and they're about to give me the needle, and this other doctor runs in, and he just yelled, "Stop!" He's like he's too heavy. If we, his airways will collapse if we do it. But yeah, so it was just this crazy ordeal. I was in critical care for like 2 weeks, and then I was sort of starting to get a bit better. And there was an old guy next to me, and anyone that knows me knows that I'm like the biggest nerd on the planet. And he had a stack of Phantom comics, and I was wearing a Phantom ring at the time, and I thought I'll go over and see if I can make him smile. So I walked over, and his name was Bill, and he kind of looked up, and no one had come to visit him, and I sort of made a comment on the Phantom and said a few things, and he was sort of like unresponsive. And then I saw he had a deck of cards at the end of his bed, and I was like, "Hey Bill, I'd love to play a game of cards with you, man, but I don't think you'd enjoy it too much." And he's like, "Why?" And I do this thing where I spew up cards, and I just went, "Ugh!" And his eyes lit up, and the smile that shot across his face, and then I was like, boom. I'm like, gotcha. That's why I love magic. You can make people feel good. And that was it. And then I went out of there, and I just dropped everything, and I was like, this is what I'm doing. I had no money. I I went to Lifeline and bought like a $2 suit. They had a $2 suit sale.
Yeah.
And just went out and like hustled. And that was it. And managed to, make it doing it full time.
Yeah, but you've been on. I saw recently you were on the Rock's TV show.
Yeah.
Like
so
I was like,
is that the Rock?
you're all like
The Rock?
make-upped up, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, and you're like, yeah, I was doing a thing, and you're not a person that gloats, right? So you're like, oh yeah, I did this thing, and I'm like, dude, that's a big deal.
Oh, it's fun. I like to sort of live life like it's a video game. Like a video game you're only going to play once. And I'm all about the side quests. Like I have my main quest and I love my main quest. But if I see something that could be fun, that when I'm 80 years old, that I can sit down and laugh at myself for doing one day, or look back and go, man, that was cool. I will take every opportunity to do it. And that was one of them. I got the phone call and I was actually supposed to play another character. And then last minute they're like, oh, we want you to play Gold Dust. So we're going to have to shave your head bald and dye what's left of it blonde.
That's why I couldn't. I was watching the clip and I'm like, hang on a minute. Where is he? Is that him? And I was watching it 2 or 3 times trying to work
that's
it
a
out.
big deal, dude. Like, because I don't think they're filming it still here, right? It's back overseas.
I think it's going to be back overseas now.
Yeah, because I was like, when they were filming here, I was like, this is awesome.
I was like, The Rock? The Rock? That's so cool.
It was so good. And the cool thing about it was because I've done a bit of pro wrestling over the years as well. So I've got a lot of friends that were on set as well. So, in between sets, it was just catching up with mates. It was great.
So good.
Perfect.
Like, that's amazing. And you've obviously, because you're based in the Gold Coast and there's a lot of filming up there, have you had spots in other things as well?
Yeah. When I was younger, it was a lot of like student films and stuff. I've always been into film, like ever since I was in high school, went through drama and studied a bit more outside of school. But I did a lot of student films when I was younger. And then as I got older, just started, getting into doing other stuff as well. So I've done a fair few other films, and there's a few sort of coming up stuff, but no major roles, nothing like
Yet.
Chris Hemsworthy.
Yet.
Well, you might. Like,
You never
he's
know.
filming everything here now.
He is.
Yeah.
You got Mad Max. They're filming the new Mad Max. They're filming at the moment, Broken Hill.
Yeah. Mad Max would be cool.
Dude, that'd be so good.
I'd love to just play a mutant that gets blown up or something.
Well, and they all kind of look kind of grotty as well, so you don't
I'd
really have
fit
to
in.
make an effort, right?
No,
I'm not
What are
saying
you
you're
trying to
fitting.
say?
Well, I'm not saying. Oh.
Uh-oh.
I don't know what to say now. Thanks.
Let's rewind. Let's keep
But it's like you got to take every opportunity. Nothing. I think people too have this thing where they will stay in their lane because it's comfortable. And when you feel uncomfortable, that's when like magical things happen, right? Like,
oh, that's it. That's it. And I was speaking to a friend of mine about this the other day, because I'm one of those people that I work hard on things and I cast a very big net. And people sort of only see the things that work and go off. And it's like anything, like you guys would know with the business you have, people don't see, the behind the scenes,
no one sees the grind because no one cares about the grind.
Yeah. And he was saying to me, because I had this like run of things that happened the other weekend. I had all my, because I DJ as well as another job, and I had all my equipment. So like 11 grand worth of stuff, sold out of the car. My car stopped work. It was just and he's like, man, you are the unluckiest person that I have ever met. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm kind of used to it, and that's, I think, what makes what I do work, because I'm the type of guy that'll be booked for a gig, and then my car will like die on the way, and then I've got to hop on a bus and do this, and I get there and this happens and the gig gets cancelled, and I've got to and that stuff always happens. So in the back of my mind, I'm mentally prepared to put in any work to get stuff done. So when stuff does go my way, it's just a little bit of extra momentum that I've got sitting in my back pocket.
Yeah, but it's always, I don't know who coined the term, but there's always, it's better to be like expecting the worst than expecting things to always happen.
To work well.
Yeah, because it never really does, right? Like,
and it's all about pivoting and thinking on your feet. And like COVID, you just have to change what you're doing.
Well, that's
and
good,
keep
Caroline,
going
because
with
pivoting
it.
on your feet, we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Hey!
Wait,
What have you got there?
All right, everyone look at my fat body in this t-shirt. Can you see it, Dan? Reckless. So explain to everybody listening and watching at home what this amazing brand is about.
Reckless Creatures. Reckless kind of saved me over COVID, because anyone that I think that works in entertainment or anything where you sort of get your high out of either performing in front of people or even personal interaction, really kind of struggled over COVID. Not just career wise, but just energy exchange wise as well. And I don't think I've ever felt like I did when I did over COVID. It was this weird stage of, because normally when you have a quiet period in anything, you're like, oh, I can work on new material. But there was no end date. We didn't know when things were going to end. We didn't know when theaters going to open up again. We didn't know what was going to happen. And, we'd been performing on Zoom and doing all this other stuff, and it wasn't the same.
It's not the same, man. Like, it's not the
You
same.
need to feel the energy from the crowd.
Yeah.
And you just can't do that over Zoom.
And you couldn't. And I had like a year's worth of gigs just dropped, and a lot of people in the industry did as well. But in that happening, a lot of beautiful things happened as well, where people tried new things that they never would, and they had time to put time into hobbies that they had neglected, or time to spend with family, or time to work on that business that they'd always dreamed of starting but never did. And for me, I love rock and roll, and I've always loved like dragons and fantasy stuff.
Bit of a D&D.
D&D. And that's what took over my friends and I lives over COVID. We'd play D&D, whether it was over Zoom, when things were hectic, or when you could have a few people in your house. I actually built a dungeon. I've got the full castle set up at home.
We need to see
it's a
some
dungeon
photos
for
about
like podcasting. Everyone get your mind out of the gutter. It's not one of those dungeons.
It's not one of those ones. No,
Caroline looking at you.
What are you talking about, Rick?
Yeah, no, 50 Shades would have a very different storyline if it was like, hey, come check my dungeon. This wasn't what I expected.
Like, let me show you a magic trick.
Yeah,
So let's get on to Reckless Creatures.
Yeah,
What
so
happened?
we were just playing D&D, and it all started with, I was like, oh man, I'll make a shirt for my friends. So I thought I'll do a crossover between like classic band art and some D&D characters.
Dude, it's so cool. Like, it's really, really cool. And if you don't, like, you should follow him on his Instagram and his Reckless Creatures one.
Oh, stop.
Like, the rings and stuff that you make.
Yeah, well, I think that was the one thing that was quite crazy, because I made the first shirt, and then a few friends were like, I've got mates asking where I can get them from. And I was like, oh, as in like they want to buy one?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah. And that was it. And from then on, I started like a website. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do a design a month. And I think 23 designs down now. And then I started mugs, books and stuff.
It's taking off, right?
Right here.
Yeah, it's really starting to gain traction. I think that's sort of to blame solely for, Stranger Things, Onward, D&D movie coming out. It's getting a lot more popular. But one thing I've always wanted to do, anyone that knows me knows that I've been obsessed with like big chunky rock jewelry since I was a kid. I've always worn rings, and I've always been like, how cool would it be to learn to make your own jewelry? And over COVID, as an extension of Reckless Creatures, I sat down for one session learning how to sculpt and make stuff, and I lost track of time. Most people would sit 2 hours in this class. I was there for 10. And I'd finished my first class, and I had it's my like Cthulhu piece, and I'd finished it by the end of the session, and I just lost track of time, and it was the only thing in my entire life that I'd done that made me just not think about anything, just zone out, because my brain's always like 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because you've got so many different avenues that you're kind of going down, and Rick is very much the same.
Oh, and I don't think. I don't like using the term ADHD because I'm not diagnosed with it, right? But it's it's like the aspect, but it's very similar, right? So my brain is just like,
go,
man,
go.
like, because it's just like, and I'll be
Everyone's
chatting to
having a party.
Caroline, and then I'll just be like, bang, and just be like, oh, blah, blah, and Caroline like, what is going on? Like,
Yeah.
I think it's just an active mind. It's like what's next? What's this? Or here's an idea. Oh, I need to do that.
But I think
why
that's
are you trying to do something?
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a key to your success.
Yeah, I think
Because it's the grind, man. Like, it's not easy.
No, it's definitely hard. And that's one thing I guess I found with the jewelry side of things as well. Like, I never really had that appreciation for handmade jewelry. You go to a market or something, and I look at it, and a lot of the times you'd be like, oh, that's quite expensive for that.
Yeah.
But then when you actually go through the process and you sit down and you like hand carve and sculpt something, and then you finish it and you cast it and then you set it, you're like, man, this is
People don't realize. They think there's a machine for everything.
Well, that's what I did with your website, right? Because I was looking at your website yesterday. I said to Caroline, I want to have a look at his website so I know what we're talking about, because I don't want to be like, oh, blah, blah. So I went and I was like, I looked at your rings and I was like, oh, wow, look at the price, Caroline. She's like, yeah. And I was like, Yeah, but he hand sculpts them. It's not a machine in a lab that's
No.
like bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because people don't get that line, because you can 3D design and 3D print and then make a mold from that.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
But you know,
Yeah.
like my dragon piece, for example, there was like almost 100 hours.
And that's what you got to work out.
Work
So
on that.
a few of our friends who are artists, they always ask me, so what should I do? And I'm like,
What
look,
should I price this product
you
at?
need to be comfortable what you want to charge per hour.
Yeah,
Because, you know,
Your
yeah,
time
do you
is
want,
valuable.
Do you want $2 an hour? Because no one wants $2 an hour. Like, it sounds a lot when it's like $1,000, but it's not a lot. Like,
no, especially for, you see people that make like
Yeah.
this is a good example.
Yeah, Sarah. Yeah, she's
Sarah,
awesome.
Yeah.
Like a mural or like a painting like that. You're not just buying that piece. You're not just buying like a print off of that. You know, if you're buying the original piece that someone's put in, sometimes hundreds of hours into, you know, paint.
And we're not even talking about the time that you've gone to prepare for it all,
Yeah,
to plan it all, to execute. Like, it's just unbelievable.
Wow.
What's
I think that's everything, Paul.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you, like, taking the
Coming
time.
down,
Because you're,
yeah.
I know you're super busy and you got a lot going on, and we really appreciate it.
And a lot of people are trying to pull you in lots of different directions all the time. So thank you so much for coming down.
And I'm not going to say good
no.
luck, because I reckon
luck is
good
yeah.
luck is a really bad term. I don't like saying good luck to people, because if you work hard enough, luck comes your way. And
Yeah.
I reckon you're going to smash it in France. We'll find out. Time this podcast airs, maybe not, but we'll see.
Yeah. Otherwise, it'll be definitely a few croissants deep by the time. I get back.
Don't eat too many, because we don't want heart attack
Yeah.
Apollo back. Because, you know, like, it's nice, but, you know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, man, we'll put all your links to, like, your store and everything, and we'll share it on Instagram today. Just say big thanks, because we really do appreciate you making the time for us.
Oh no, thank
Because,
you
you
guys
know,
so much for having me.
Like, you're famous.
No.
You know what I tell people, because we get little kids that come to the store, I go, I'm a poor famous person, because they think Instagram followers and life is fame.
Yeah, it's like being rich in Monopoly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fake money, right? And that's what I tell people, like, it's not fame, man. It
Just
doesn't
see
make
my
me money.
face
Like,
Yeah.
everywhere doesn't mean I've, got a lot of money.
that's
Just
exactly
I'm just
right.
recognisable.
But we
Oh.
look forward to you bringing your show to Melbourne soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave.
I'm trying to think of next year. I think they've got they've got definitely got plans to bring
Sweet.
it down here.
We'll go.
So
Don't send us free stuff, we'll pay.
Yes.
I don't want free tickets, we'll just pay. Like
I'm a
normal
magician. It'll end up in your pocket.
people. Oh, there you go. All right, man, we appreciate it. Thank you so much, Apollo.
Thanks so much for having me.
you.